Welcome back to the Animal Aspirations Podcast,
a podcast sharing conversations with veterinary students, professionals, and people working across animal-related careers.
Our goal is simple: to educate, inspire, and diversify the veterinary profession.
Today, we're joined by Matt to talk about his journey as a country vet.
Let's get into it.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Matt. To kick things off, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, so hi everyone, my name's Matt. Full name, my name is Mathew Alan Jackson Smith, and I'm a vet. I graduated in 2014 from the University of Glasgow, which was 12 years ago now, which is insane. I always wanted to be a mixed practitioner, so I got my first job at my home practice, where I'm still at. And I currently live in the lovely little town of Holmfirth. If any of you have ever watched Last of the Summer Wine, is where it's based. And because I am so close to bigger towns like, Huddersfield, Leeds, Manchester, all those kind of areas, there's quite a big population in West Yorkshire. And it means that there's loads of animals, loads of people, and there's a lot of countryside around as well. So it means I can fulfill my job of being a mixed practitioner, which I love. I spend half my time doing small animal exotics, and I spend the other half my time doing farm animal and some zoo work as well. I suppose really you could say that's a bit of a niche area, which it certainly is. Cows on one side. My brother's a dairy farmer, so I spent a lot of time holidays and everything like that since I was old enough to walk at my brother's farm. So my brother's 25 years older than I am, just to give some context. So it wasn't like we're at similar ages running around. So I spent a lot of time there where I learned all about cows and where my love of large animal came from. And I also grew up watching The Crocodile Hunter, obviously Steve Irwin and such, which obviously I know his son Rob has taken up the mantle on the Irwins. And well, that is where my love of reptiles and exotics come from. So I have got a bit of a niche. I love my tortoises and my cows. And if you mix the two together, you've got dinosaurs. So Jurassic Park happens. I very much dream to be Chris Pratt and do his do his job. But at the moment, the closest to a T-Rex I'm getting is chickens. It's been a really wild ride for the past 12 years. I don't know why. I was thinking, 2014, 12 years. Yeah, I'm right there, 12 years. Funnily enough, for the American audience, I graduated on Independence Day, July the 4th, 2014 as well. I just threw that in there. A bit of an irony to that, I think, as well, getting out there into the real world. But in my time in these past 12 years, genuinely, it feels like it's been way more than that. I mean, obviously, COVID massively changed things. When I started working at Donaldson's, where I am now, we're still Donaldson's Vets as a mixed practice, and it actually split, like a lot of practices did, into a farm and equine branch and a small animal branch. And and that naturally led to the separation of the practices. They're still linked, but it means that I do 2 separate days on farm and equine and 2 separate days on small and animal. I had a bit of a 6-month hiatus where I tried something a bit different. I went up to work in Thirst for 6 months, which unfortunately didn't pan out as I wanted. But at the same time, I don't regret it. I had a great time when I was up there, and coming back to my original spot back in at Donaldson's, which I suppose straight from Glasgow straight back to Yorkshire. It's like the Yorkshire beacon just goes dip 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 dip, and TV stuff as well. So the TV stuff, which the Yorkshire Vet came along in 2019, which was insane turn up for the books. Just as COVID was happening, the TV stuff started. Very unnerving because I'd watched it. My grandma got me to watch the Yorkshire Vet, and I looked at it, I learned a few bits here and there, and I thought it'd be quite cool if TV happened. You never know. And then next thing we know, there's a crossover at Cannon Hall Farm where we go. They were filming for an On the Farm series, and Julian and Peter, which I don't know if you watch it, those are the main 2 vets there, and they met them through again the Cannon Hall Farm there, and turns out they were looking to kind of expand the series. And so that's when I kind of got started, as well as a few of my colleagues. And it's been crazy, actually. I look at it, and the TV's actually now been part of my career for more than half the time I've graduated. It's been 7 years, which been involved with the TV and media work, which has led to some incredible opportunities. Certainly, you get to there's a camera crew come around and film what you do, which is unnerving. But I tell you what, they don't have to get stuck in. The camera crew have put down the cameras and helped with prolapses and all sorts of things. I probably reckon they could do a cesarean by now. if left them to it. They are genuinely like one of the team, and so that's been really good fun. Got to write a book. That was an interesting experience as well. So I'm currently working on a second book. So 70,000 words to do, and I'm 16,000. there, so should pick up the pace a little bit, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And I've really gone off a bit of a tangent there. So as far as like kind of a background goes, here I am. Do I know what's ahead? You know what? I genuinely don't, and that's very exciting. But at the same time, it's slightly unnerving because I've always been a planner and knowing this is what I wanted to, where I wanted to be. At one point, I wanted to be a director of the practice and this practice and that practice, and it never really worked out. And I was like, well, hold on, let's just put a pin in it. Do I want this directorship or do I want to just really love the job that I'm doing? Before I left Donaldson's initially, I was doing about 80% large animal and only a bit of small. And then I went to do majority of small and only a bit of mixed animal. And you know what? People ask, what would you choose? It depends what day you ask me. I love my large animals. I love my small. I love my exotics. Like I said, I've just finished my exotic certificate at Improve International. I completed that certificate in 2025, sorry. And it was yeah, that was a lot of work, but I'm very pleased I did that. But yeah, I consider myself a true mixed practitioner through and through. Oh yeah, and I dart gun stuff sometimes. Cow escapes, let's go catch it. That was a really long intro, but I think I covered most things there.
Perfect. I guess when did you realize that rural practice was for you?
I think in my head, what I'd planned out before my, I suppose before I even started vet school, is naturally we all, do work experience when we're 15, 16 years old at local vets practice and such like that. My plan, as I kind of started vet school, I always knew that I liked my cows, my smalls, my exotics, and my general plan was do everything. But I knew I wanted to be a director of like a practice, and I also knew that I said, I want to spend some time in USA or Canada because I've got family over in Canada, over in Alberta. So if you'd asked me in first year, second year review and said, right, Matthew, what's the plan? It was going to be, right, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to do the NAVLE, I'm going to shoot off to for 4 years to Canada to go work there. One of the vets at Edinburgh said once, yeah, maybe some of the advice should be, to go somewhere else for a few years, make your mistakes, and then come back and and start off that level. And we always kind of joke about that because me going to America, it's I passed the NAVLE, but it just kind of never really happened. I mean, like I said, my plan after going to Canada and America for a few years was to come back to be a mixed practitioner to practice, climb the way to the top, to be a director of the mixed practice, and that's it. Really, I suppose. Quite, blinkers were on. That was the trajectory. I suppose very traditional. That's the word. And obviously at the time, when I graduated in 2014, everyone went into mixed practice. It wasn't really a question of do you have on call. It was very much a case of when are you on call, and that ranged from 1 in 3, 1 in 4. It was just at the start of everything starting to split. There were farm only practices, there were small animal only practice, but everyone wanted to go into mixed practice, and most of the time there were mixed practice jobs available. And over a couple of, the first couple of years is when a lot of my friends, that decided to kind of go one way or the other. But what happened was I got offered a job as a mixed vet, and I took that job straight away because I thought, well, that skips my plan ahead for 4 years, but then it kind of fast forwards my 4-year plan of being at a mixed practice and being a director and doing the exotics and just working as a vet and doing that. It just skipped my timeline ahead. That was exactly what I wanted to wanted to do. I took the job and didn't look back, and it was incredible. And I think over spending time at the at the practice, it's so much about the people that you're going to work with, like to have good bosses, to have a place that supports you. And yes, okay, you dropped in the deep end a little bit, but everyone stood around with life rafts ready to help you out. You've got room to grow and develop. And I think, that there was something which I looked like I back on it. And that was incredible, to develop my skills as a mixed practitioner, do scanning routines with cows on the morning, get back for afternoon surgeries, you do on call, and then, skip round through to the next day and see what's came in. And, I followed the vet around that did exotics and learned from him. And then, a lot of the other like directors at the time, they kind of, they kind of taught me, the art of the consult and how to speak to people, all that kind of stuff. And really after, so kind of like over that 0 to 12 years, I was there for like 3 or 4 years, and I got promoted to a clinical director position on the farm and equine kind of side of things, which was great. I'd start doing herd health plans. I'd done more of the exotic side. I was doing my surgeries and stuff, and it was it was all going really, really quite well. And so 2014, 4 years of that takes us to 2018 stroke 2019, and then in 2019 I met my now wife, and then 2019 COVID hit, and that flipped everything on its head. Naturally, the practice split into farm team and small animal team. The whole system kind of rotated. It was incredible how they worked it out, and we just had the new practice built at the time, which meant we could, when it came to having social distancing, have people inside and such. But I suppose really that was a trial run for how it would work as separate practices go. And throughout COVID at this point in time, we kind of eventually came back together as, semi as one, but by that time the practice had split into separate companies, and I was doing a lot more farm animal work. I was doing only a small amount of small animal work, and certainly like directorship opportunities were different, and it was something which I thought, well, maybe I want to have a try at doing something else or going somewhere. But I've been doing 89% farm animal. I'm not doing half as much small as kind of as I kind of wanted to, and going up to Thirsk for 6 months again. There are options for progression and just something totally different. I felt it was time for a change. It was never much a case of the grass was greener on one side. It was very much a case of I felt I'd eaten all my grass, and so I had 6 months up there doing mainly small animal. I still got to do a little bit of like visits and the zoo work and that, and I really missed my farm animal, and it kind of all came collapsing down really, because after 6 months there I was commuting an hour and a half each morning and each night. My wife Catherine was pregnant at the time. We were looking to try and find a house to move into. I just burned out. I remember waking up on a morning and I was like, can't do it. An hour and a half commute. That I was napping at service stations. I was napping at this, and it was a big personal turn for me there. I was like, hold on, what am I doing with my veterinary career? What am I wanting to do? Why am I doing it? It was like there was a big thing of, right, Matthew, why are you doing what you're doing? What's important? What matters here? So I just kind of pulled the plug on everything really, and it was a case of let's just start again, and that's when I kind of came back to where I am today and designed my own week, which was half farm and equine, half small animal, and I'd maintained good relations, with the team as I left. It's one that, I think relationships matter so much in this world that we're, in this world that we're in. And so being, this is what I'm going to do. This is what my career is going to look like from second year of university to in 2023, pulling the plug on the whole thing. And we're 3 years down the line. What does the future hold? I don't know, but I'm really happy where I am doing the veterinary work that I enjoy, and opportunities just pop up here and there, and we just run with them. Really, bit unnerving to be flying by the seats of my pants to a degree, but we're enjoying it. That's the main thing. Again, I digressed. I really went off on a tangent there,
It's been quite a while now, but can you think back to before vet school? What was your journey like? Did you have any obstacles going into vet school, or was it quite easy going?
So going into vet school, going right back, my fortes at school were actually never the sciences. My fortes at school, I was always good at art and English, and I really enjoyed geography. Like I said, I'm a bit of a fossil nerd, and rocks and minerals and geology. I was quite like that. But I knew that's veterinary I wanted to do. The focus was simply on veterinary, so I was like, right, get my sciences, crack on. And at A-levels, which is obviously when you're age 17, 18, we did 4 subjects. I did biology, chemistry, geography, and art. And then at the end of year 12, so when you're 17 years old, you drop one of the subjects. So I dropped art, and I just took biology, chemistry, and geography. And the story behind that is I knew I wanted to be a vet, but I hated physics and maths so much. I looked through every single prospectus to a place that would accept biology, chemistry, and another academic subject. And I checked, geography counted as an academic subject. So I applied to Glasgow, London, Liverpool, and Nottingham, and it was one that I got an offer from Glasgow. And my Liverpool interview, I bombed that one. London one, I bombed that as well. Nottingham, they didn't even accept me. They said, "No, let's already on to biosciences," but I was like, I don't really want to kind of go on a tangent, go to biosciences. I got that from Glasgow, so I was like, excellent. 2 A's and a B. They wanted an A in chemistry, an A in biology, and a B in geography. So I was like, brilliant. Results day came round. I got 2 A's and a B, but the A was in biology, the A was in geography, but the B was in chemistry. And I was 4 marks off the A, and I was absolutely devastated. I think back to it now. You open that envelope and you look around the room, and there's so many people there that are absolutely elated. And I was just like a degree of shock, like, what do I do now? And really, it was a case of, like I said, that focus and that drive. I was like, well, I know I'm going to be a vet. I've just got to find another way to go do it. So I thought, well, gap year it is. Let's just start the process again. And Glasgow got in contact with me, and Glasgow got in with me and said, "Oh, Matthew, do you want to just apply to us, retake your chemistry from a B to an A, and then we'll let you in?" So I was like, brilliant, I'm sold. So my school were incredibly supportive, and they let me retake my chemistry A levels. And yeah, so I managed to get that B to an A, which actually, I know you look at it, I actually had 2 runs at it in my gap year. The first run, I was too blasé about it. I was like, oh, I only need 4 marks, revise a bit, it'll be fine. But actually, in that second run, and then I only reclaimed 2 marks then. So I was still 2 marks off it. So that second run was really what kind of lit the fire into my backside. I was like, wow. And actually, that really kind of, that taught me the art of, like, you've got to persist and get through to certain concepts like triggering and stuff like that. So the obstacle was me, really, stopping me to getting there a bit sooner. But the obstacle wasn't me in the sense that, my first run at A-levels, the obstacle was me in my gap year. I was too busy visiting my mates at university and having fun, earning some money. I worked at Blockbusters. And anyway, so that was, I had a good time, and it was a case of, okay, let's really focus, because I was worried most about my biology. Biology was, I don't know if it still is now, but biology was like the hardest A-level to get the A in. So I was more worried about that, but I managed to get the A in biology. So actually, it was a combination of, oh my God, I got my A in biology. Brilliant. B in chemistry. Oh shit. Okay, let's start again. And the gap year was great fun. So yeah, the biggest obstacle was my chemistry, which was partly my own fault, but knuckled down, cracked on, and away we went.
Do you have any advice, I guess, for students who are currently going through that process?
I think it's a case of thinking, why do you want to do it? In the sense that kind of drives you. I knew I wanted to do veterinary, since I was 12, 13 years old. And if you asked me why then, didn't really know. When I was 17, I had a bit of a panic of, do I really want to do veterinary? What's this? And I kind of sat down with one of our family friends who had a bit of life coaching experience. She kind of sat down and said, right, pan your life out at age 40, which is crackers because I'm 37. Am I 37 this time, or am I 36? Anyway, can't keep track. I'm approaching that. And it kind of, she asked me the questions to think, why do you want to do this? Why don't you want to go climb volcanoes or, go collect rocks for depression? I just always gravitated back to veterinary what to do. I remember actually doing when I was 15, 16, doing the little quizzes online saying, what does your career want to be? I tried to stack the deck. So it said vet. I got patent agent. I got doctor, I got zoologist, marine biologist. I did not get vet. And I'm like, this career software's rubbish, So I think it was that, yes, I was blinkered. I didn't look too much outside the box, but I think it was that focus that this is what I want to do got me there. And ultimately, I think that is what will get you there, because you'll be prepared to put the hours in, put the effort in, take the hits, take the criticism, take the interviews that don't go too well, take the fact that I was a bit lazy on this one, so I should do better next time, and it's something which, whatever route you want to go in terms of via a biochemistry or via a different route, there's that many people that are starting off with having 1 gap year, 2 gap years, entirely new, entirely different degrees. This is like second, third degree that starts. So there's always a way in, I think, if you keep plugging and that's what you want to do.
Moving on to your life now, what's your day-to-day experience being a rural vet?
So it really, it's one that, being out of the countryside, actually our house is positioned around, I look out the window and I can name farms and spots, where our clients are. We've got ones literally at the back of our house. And it's something which when when you've been around, in your area for as long as I have, you get to like know the farmers, individual people and stuff like that. A lot of them kind of do become more friends sometimes than clients. They can pick up some drugs from you, and when the call at 2 a.m. comes in, it's like our area covers such a wide area. Sometimes it can be an hour. Sometimes I have to go out towards Bradford way, which from where I am on Perth, it's a fair schlep. But then suddenly it can be like, oh, it's 10 minutes around the corner. So at 2 a.m. you're in your car for 10 minutes. You're like, oh, excellent. Here we go. Sometimes I've thought, you know what? Just come to my house. I'll do it from the back of my truck. I've got everything in my truck that you need to do. I'll do our pajamas. We'll sort the Caesar out and we'll go straight back to bed. But you know what? I love the countryside. I love being with my farm animals. And that's what I learned when I did small animal only pretty much small animal for 6 months. I really missed getting out and about there. I said to myself I'd never complain about doing a 2 a.m. colic ever again, which I haven't. In my head I have, but not out loud, because I think that kind of on call that comes with large animal vet, and there's no getting around it. I think it's one that you get the most exciting times, but at the same time it is tiring, certainly with a 2.5-year-old. But yeah, rural vetting in terms of driving around the countryside, and I'm a sucker for farm shops. If it's lunchtime, I'm near a farm shop, it's like, oh, take my money. Pork pies, get the blue cheese on top, get the black pudding on top, get the caramelized onion on top. Yes, that pasta is incredible. So like I've got my favourite spot for a terrific lamb and mint pasty. I'll always go there just up the road. My best place for the pork pies, some great ice cream, great milkshakes. So sometimes I plan my day around my stomach. I think that's a perk of rural vetting. 2 a.m. lambing, really, really good farm shops. You can't have one without the other. And mileage, yeah. When the fuel prices started going up, you're like, whoa! But no, it is driving around, and you get to see some incredible places. Definitely, doing the whole rural vetting stuff. And like I said, where we are, in that kind of the M62, that belt, you've got a big belt of rural surrounded by a huge like urban zone. So it really is quite a unique demographic.
What do you think most people would be surprised to know about being a country vet?
What would they be most surprised to know about being a country vet? What would they be most surprised to know about? What is surprising? How small of a world it is. Everybody knows everyone. And like some of the staff on the farms have gone to different farms and worked at different spots. You'll recognise a face from, oh, where's that farm? Oh, Brummel, it's that person up the road. And and I get messages now from people that I know that are in the area. So, Matthew, I've seen a sheep that looks in trouble at this field, and I'm like, oh, what field is that? What farm does that belong to? I'm like, okay, yeah, so, oh no, that's not Tom's. How small of a world it actually is. It actually is. The community, the community spirit really is there.
What's the most unusual emergency call you've gotten?
The most unusual emergency call. I mean, where do I start? I think the most unusual has to be, there was one Saturday morning, I had a call from one of our keepers on the zoo. Said one of the marmosets has started to go downhill, really lethargic, don't know what's wrong. Anyway, so literally like emergency visit to the vets for a marmoset. We got it on some fluids. They're really they can be a bit prone to GI issues, so we treated for that and got it back on its feet, and it was away. I mean, emergencies as well as escaped wallabies. I went to go dart some escaped wallabies out near Leeds once. That was an interesting phone call. It says, Matthew, can you come now? We've got this wallaby caught up in the middle of a forest. And, it's quite funny because obviously wallabies are normally like brown. I was like, oh, how am I going to spot it? And they're like, oh, it's okay, it's white. And it sat there and looked at me, and I got it from about 15 yards out straight into its backside. I was like, yes. So that was a bit of a moment, because they had people kind of literally stood waiting for me, and I said, oh, right, okay, I need to finish my job, I'll be there in like an hour and a half. And they literally stood there keeping these like wallabies contained. This wallaby escaped. You can actually find it if you're on the BBC, escaped wallaby in Leeds, you'll probably find it, and it's like a little white wallaby that comes out. So that was a bit of a crazy call out as well. Again, like, one Sunday afternoon, to be fair, actually some of the more crazy ones have been some of when I've had to go out and like capture animals. Like I got a call one Sunday afternoon. I remember it now. We just put the oven on. A bottle of wine had just been opened, and me and wife Catherine sat there and said, "Oh, Matthew, there's a big Limousin cow on a golf course. That farmer can't catch it." And I was like, "He come down to it." I was like, "Yeah, all right then." So I said to Catherine, "Catherine, how do you fancy going to catch a cow on a golf course?" She looked at me with a glass of wine, and she was like, "Is that, you're not really giving me a choice here, right?" I was like, no, this is what we're going to do now. So we got into the car to the golf course and literally taking my truck down the 18 holes and stuff like that. This big Limousin cow, she had decided to cross not just a small river, she decided to cross this literally absolutely massive river because she'd been spooked at the farm, got to the side where there was a public footpath, and as she'd gone over the public footpath, she'd gone onto the golf course. And the thing was, often some cows will walk away from you because she was a bit angry. She actually went towards you. So my wife and the farm's hand were kind of like safely out of the way, and me and the farmer kind of lured her towards us on this path. And literally, it was like I was just like little stealth, like Elmer Fudd moment. I'm hunting rabbits, and he walked off in front, and as we went around the corner, I dug out of the corner into like a little bit of rough area, and she walked past me, and I got her getting, and boom, got her straight in the neck. And I was like, excellent. But then you kind of, in these situations, you've got to kind of, you kind of rely on a little luck, but at the same time, best planning. So we just kind of hoped she'd stumble back onto the golf course. Thankfully, she did. So she stumbled into this like wooded area and literally just passed out just next to the roof on the golf course. So we had to break down the fence and literally between us, like using the straps from our truck and his truck, and just hooved her out. So that was a great Sunday afternoon. Great Sunday afternoon in like
Sounds like an entertaining afternoon.
Yeah.
it really was. You know what? We were back in time for a Sunday dinner as well, which was great. Couple hours, job done.
Still get your glass of wine.
It was, yeah, a well-deserved one. Definitely.
Right, yeah. When you were a new vet and you're trying to build rapport with these farmers, was that challenging, or how did you approach that?
I think really it was just yes, they are. I'm not seeing them as that. Just speaking to them like a human being. They can see through if someone's not got experience or someone's not got this, but what they can see is effort. They can see you're trying, and and it's something which, if they see that you're trying, whether you've had, all your experience you had with cows is on placement, or whether you've had years of experience like with cows, it doesn't matter too much as long as you put that effort in and you just ask the questions about the farm, about the system, what's going on here. And don't be scared to say you don't know, it's saying you don't know, but question is what you're going to do about it. We all make mistakes, that will happen, but it's how you respond to them, and how you deal with I think build some bonds. I remember once I injected right at the start, I injected a cow with some incorrect antibiotics, and essentially it meant that the milk had to be withheld for 28 days minimum on the cascade, and so it was really awkward because it was a milking cow, and I was so focused on what antibiotic to use, because I can't use this antibiotic, I've got to use this antibiotic, use that long-acting antibiotic, but like, what do I do? I just injected it, and then the farmer read the leaflet, and it says, all right, what do I do? And he rang the boss, and I was like, Matthew, you just done this, and I was like, yeah, and then I was like, no. I was like, what am I doing? It's like, yeah, you've cost him quite a bit of money there, but it's all right. We'll fix that. The practice supported me 100%, financial agreements we came to, but I got on really well with that farmer. It ribs me about it. I fixed the cow, but it does give me some stick about it. But yeah, accept that things will go wrong. I look back at, I had the time when, again, communication is key. Try and be clear. I once got told the farmer wanted me to cut a calf with a retained testicle. And I was like, he wants me to castrate it. No, he did not. He wanted me to cut it so that the muscle dropped down into the scrotum, and then he could use it as a breeding bull. Wires were crossed. And long story short, I'd stood in dog mess, and so my car stank like dog shit. I had a student with me. The student had stabbed herself on the scalpel blade trying to help me, so she ended up going to A&E knee. She was covered in blood. And then I had a very, very cross farmer with testicles on the floor because he thought I was going to cut it and not castrate it. I thought I was going to lose my job. I'm not going to lie. I went back to practice and I cried because I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Okay, the farmer understood there was a misunderstanding there, and, financial agreements were made because at the end of the day, insurance, all that kind of stuff. And that's what it's there for. No one's perfect, but I tried my hardest and I'd done as much as I could for him. He understood that there was there, and he had me back on the farm, and I went there and did a few good carvings for him. Excellent. And, I think it's just understanding that things will go wrong, but as long as you've done your best with your clinical judgment for that animal, then that's what you've got to sit with. But rapport with the farmers, just chat to them. Get to know. Yeah, you'll have some that are quiet and others that don't seem as chatty. But you know what? I just talked at them. But yeah, that's I say. Just be honest, and take an interest. Take a genuine interest.
Did you have a mentor that supported you through these experiences while you were a new grad?
Yeah, so it was the director of the practice I was at. They were absolutely incredible. Literally, I always refer to them as like my vet heroes because the knowledge that they had was incredible. Something had always happened to one of them across their careers. And if I was stuck, unsure, anything like that, they would 100% have my back and they would give me the most incredible advice and make me feel so much better about it, which is kind of what comes back to it. It's a case of knowing the people that are higher up, knowing your mentors, knowing your people that are there to support you, because that really does. I think sometimes that would make it or break it as a new grad, is the support.
What advice would you have to students who want to follow in a similar career path as yours?
I would say, again, kind of going back to what I said about being a vet to start with, it's a case of having, what I wanted, literally, I kept that focus of, I want to be a director of a mixed practice in my head. And literally, I've gone on a total tangent to it, but having that focus gave me a direction to go in and it opened up other doors that I've taken, so it's great to have a plan. But at the same time, if that plan does go awry or go different, just kind of roll with the punches, And I think if you are wanting to go into a career as a mixed vet, I think it's harder to find these days, because so many places are split, which is why I got to look at the demographic. There are still mixed practices in in North Yorkshire and rural Scotland, Northern Ireland. There are out there. You just got to do a bit more hunting for them. So I think certainly it's one that even if you started in just doing one or doing one or the other, it's a case of don't be afraid if if say for example you've not got enough large experience where you currently are, or smallest, or vice versa. Don't be afraid of having those honest conversations with whoever you work with and say, look, can I do this or not do this? And if you can't, you can look at going elsewhere and stuff like that. So just keep that focus of actually this is what I want to do, and ask yourself why. Why don't I want to mix practice? Do it. Excellent. Right, let's do it. And opportunities, will, what is it? What's it called? Luck is when an opportunity and preparedness meet itself. There we go. That's a good little philosophical line for it. Yeah. Keep going. Mixed vetting. Woo.
Moving on to TV and social media, I believe you were on a show called The Yorkshire Vet. So how do these opportunities come about?
Literally, The Yorkshire Vet just came about by chance. It was a case of we were just at one of our regular clients, a spot called Carron Hall Farm, and they were filming for a little spin-off TV show. Little did we know that they were looking at expanding on the Yorkshire Vet, and they said, do you want to get involved? So myself and the practice director sat down with the head of the studios, and I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And they ran a little mini tape. They got my colleague David involved at the start, and then they said, right, let's go. And then each year my colleagues Shona and Rohin, came into that kind of circle of the Yorkshire Vet, and it was very unnerving because the Yorkshire was very well established, and because the Yorkshire was very well established, there was the viewers that were like, who are these new vets that are coming on television? Do we like them? It's like watching a TV show, isn't it? Halfway through this TV series, new people come in, you're like, whoa, hold on. So seeing so we were coming on to TV like, hi, we're new vets, we're also from Yorkshire, and we're just doing vetty things. And yeah, it just developed from there. The practice was happy to take the opportunity forward, and the us vets that were involved with it have really, really enjoyed it. And like I said, it's become, part of my vet life now for over half my career, which is mental. So yeah, it just kind of fell into the kind of right place, right time, right situation, really.
That's honestly an incredible opportunity to have fall in your lap. I think that's crazy. I guess, what was it like to be followed around by cameras, especially while you're trying to do vet work? Do you think that you, like, carried yourself differently when cameras were on?
It's funny because when you first start, before like the action happens and you start doing the vet thing, then yeah, you're kind of aware that they're watching you. And then when you're talking to them about, today we've got so-and-so in arm at this farm today to see farmer so-and-so, look at this calf. You're kind of being told, all right, don't look down the camera, look this way, do that. You're kind of being trained how to do it. But then when you're there in doing the thing, the cesarean, the carving, the procedure, whatever it will be, it's almost like they kind of fall into the background because your like focus is so on that animal procedure you're doing. Sometimes you don't even realize that they're there, and they're so good at working around you so that they can catch the reality of the situation. And you know what? They're actually really good to have on hand, certainly on farm visits, because the amount of times I've had to ask the cameraman Adam to literally put the camera down and help me wrestle a cow or a sheep, or something like that. Or, there was one situation I had a cow prolapse and they had to sit on the cow to hold it down. I had the producer holding like back legs with like some like HGV straps to make sure that, that the cow like didn't move. And then next thing I know is Adam's got the camera pointed straight down at me and covered in blood and feces and all that kind of stuff, shoving this prolapse back in. And yeah, it's one that now the kind of part of the woodwork, really. We've been very lucky that obviously it's something which, the series has to be recommissioned each set amount of filming time. And thankfully it keeps getting recommissioned, and hopefully it continues because it's very quiet without them. Always good to have around as an extra pair of hands these days.
What has being on television taught you about teaching to a general audience?
I think it's adaptability. I think it's understanding that you've got such a range of people. You've got people that know a little, people that know a little bit, and people that know quite a lot, and trying to describe something to hit all those points, I think, does take quite a while. I mean, Adam the cameraman, literally the amount of time it takes me so many takes to get things and descriptions, because I'll end up, as just as you've seen, I'll end up like a bag in the wind, and I'll just go off on a tangent at something. And Adam's like, he'll say, how about you say it this way? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really good, concise way of putting it. It's very much less is more, because I just go down rabbit holes of trying to explain stuff. So it's something, it teaches you to try and keep things as clear and concise as possible, which is very tricky with certain procedures, to give the background. And some you've just got to waffle a bit to give it a bit of context, because if it's something particularly complicated, like you're doing a transformation in a cow. Yeah, it's not a simple procedure to explain to someone and say, oh yeah, it's like eating a poo pill, which I suppose is actually very similar. Maybe not a good example, but anyway, you get to pick up the little key words that can help steer. And you have to be a bit of a generalist. Like, generally this is the case. I think anyone that does biology will know that there are nuances there, and there's not one size fits all, certainly.
Is there anything about veterinary work you think can't be captured by television?
I think that they can't be captured. Ooh, that's a good question. I think that can't be captured on television. I think sometimes, I don't know, because I was about to say, like, at the end of the day, like, because it's like a reality, I think that's whichever TV show you watch, the Yorkshire Vet, the Super Vet, that kind of stuff, it shows a different aspect of the profession. You see the camaraderie and the teamwork that's there. You see the hard work that goes behind the scenes. You see the relationship between the farmer and the animals. You see the vet that cares about what they do. I think maybe sometimes, they can't, because I think obviously when the film you as a vet, you are being a professional. And yes, there's a human side to that they can see. I think sometimes what it maybe doesn't show is sometimes the huge, the long hours. Like for example, the show, a procedure to be on a tortoise that I did, it went into like, I think it was about maybe 10 minutes of screen time in total, but the surgery took like 4.5 hours. From start to finish. So I think that's very hard to capture, that fatigue that sometimes comes, and sometimes that when you've done a procedure, you're at the top of your tree, and actually when the cameras are off and everything's shut down, you get back in your car and you got to decompress. There's sometimes a lot of emotions hit you afterwards, which you can't film because it's not really part of the veterinary procedure is going. You can see the teamwork, you can see them that are getting fatigued, but I think maybe that would be quite hard to capture. But I think because vets talk about it a lot more these days, say actually that was really knackering. When they talk about behind the scenes and stuff, you say, yeah, I just come off the back of doing that. I'd just done 12 hours. My daughter was just, I think when you kind of talk around the stuff that is shown on television, it gives, it gives that bit of a, a bit more of a background would be. Does that make sense? Makes sense. So I think it's very good at capturing, for me about the Yorkshire Vet, what I love is that it captures the essence of why we do this profession. It captures the roller coaster. It captures the joy of the stuff that goes well. It captures the heartbreak of the things that go wrong. And I know a lot of people, sometimes like, oh yeah, the age of James Herriot's dead, all that kind of stuff, but personally, what I think stays the same throughout is the feelings of the farmers, the feelings of the vets. And I watched the All Creatures Great and Small remake, and I remember the chap that played James Herriot had put across a really good acting scene where he just, had to shoot a horse, and he was so upset by the situation. And I was like, that is real. That is what I can relate to. And if I'm honest, I've not read loads of the James Herriots. The one that this couldn't happen to a vet, I was reading it, and I was like, oh my God, that is literally, you've just described my Friday. You've described my Wednesday afternoon. And that was written, from things like the 1920s and the 30s. And those feelings, that kind of heart of the profession is, I think, what carries through the Yorkshire Vet. And I think that is what's captured well.
What's been your favourite moment on the show so far?
Favourite moment on the show so far? Oh, wow, where do I start with that one? Favourite moment on the show. Favourite moment on the show so far. You know what? There's a few that have really cracked me up because the Yorkshire Vet, because obviously it shows a lot of the grim stuff sometimes. Some of it makes it to Gogglebox. And, watching some of the clips that have made it to Gogglebox, like the time that we lost my snake in my dad's car, made it to Gogglebox and everyone's there commenting on what they're seeing on the TV. And when we did some castrations, just something simple when you're like a castration and they're really good at making the sound of as the clamps click, everyone goes, ooh, what can be that? And then right through to Adrian, like, sometimes, I don't think it's shown on Gogglebox, but when I'm doing like my dart gunning to get like a drug into a deer, and, I watch it and they've got the music built, and it goes boom, and it hits it, and you're like, yeah, I'm pleased with myself. That was a good shot. That was good. So I don't think there's one best bit, but there are little bits like that actually make you watch yourself back and you relive it a little bit, and you're like, oh yeah, that was quite good fun. Oh yeah, that was a close shave, or that was a disaster.
And you've mentioned that you've also written a book and working on a second one. So what made you want to pursue writing?
You know what? It kind of just cropped up. I started journaling in COVID, and then it just took off from there. And I just kept journaling. And then I thought, let's maybe try to write a few of these vet stories down. A few of the older directors that are now retired have said, oh, Matthew, write it down. Even if it's just something you won't forget, just write it down. So I did. And I had all these, and I like the idea, with the TV stuff came along, and, obviously Julian and Peter had done books and stuff. So I thought, maybe in 30, 40 years, that would be great fun. Put everything together. And I didn't think any more of it. And the opportunity came up to do the Yorkshire Vet book. And I was like, yeah, who am I to turn this opportunity down? Yeah, there's some stories that might take a bit of time to mature, and there's some stories that I can't put in, but I've got that much material and my own personal journey and stuff like that. So I was like, let's do it. So as a writer that I teamed up with, and sent him literally hundreds of pages of all my work and stuff like that, and it came together over the course of about 8 months, something like that. And doing that first one that was like my life as a Yorkshire Vet one, it was kind of nerve wracking because obviously other vets have done it, and but at the same time you're like, oh my God, that is me. That's what I've done. And you know what? If people want to read that book and they'll enjoy it, great. And then it hit Amazon. I was like, oh, what the review's going to be like? And it got 4.2, 4.5. I was like, excellent. People like it. Great. And I think because I wanted it to do good for the profession, show again, like the heart of the profession, why we did it, but yet at the same time, show the seriousness behind it, how things have changed from the younger perspective. It had a bit of COVID in there. It had my journey that I mentioned about, going away for 6 months up to Thirsk and then coming back down. It had how I felt coming back into the job and the position where I really was truly happy with what I was doing. It had all that stuff in, and I was like, yeah, you know what, that feels like good. So I'm really proud of it. And then the opportunity came to do a second one. I got asked, over 12 months ago, do you fancy doing a second? And I was like, I do, but I don't want to just do one. I want it to be good. Or at least I want to feel that the stories are getting there. I don't want to feel that it's rushed. And then funnily enough, I read the whole James Herrick Should I Have to a Vet book, and I was like, that's it. I want to do my kind of version like of that. So all the stories that didn't make it to the first one that I really wanted to go in, plus other things that have happened, over the past like 12, 24 months, all together into this into what will hopefully be a successful like second book. I mean, I've said it now. Pressure's on. It's got to be done. It's out in the world. No, it's one that I just do genuinely quite enjoy telling a story.
Did writing a book make you reflect differently on your career?
You know what? It really does. Writing down the stories and writing down, even just journaling, like life journaling, kind of makes you look back and think, ooh, wow, how do I really feel about that? It makes you think, actually, I've done quite well in this situation, or actually, I could have done that better. It genuinely does. And I know you'll get to finally it, and reflection will be like, oh, not another reflection. Like CPD, got to reflect on everything. What do you reflect? Yes, reflection is it's like a trigger word almost. You'll reflect on it. But actually, it's a skill that they teach you, which actually is so useful. And I found it so much useful in my writing as such, when I'm kind of putting like the pen to paper, or fingers to keyboard, as it would be. And I think when you kind of do get a bit bogged down with everything, or you do think to yourself, oh, do I really know what I'm doing? Imposter syndrome hits, which I tell you, I still get it. I think to myself, can I do this? Really? Surely there's someone else here, stuff like that. I think it's part and parcel of it, and I think in a strange way that is what makes you, I think in a strange way that, the fact that you're thinking about it is good, because you think of, it shows that you cared about what you're doing. It's trying to see those moments back through a slightly different perspective so you can learn from it going forward. And I think some things you look at, like, actually, I did really well there, pat myself on the back. And there are things where, that didn't go so good. Could I have done differently if I presented with it again? It's like, maybe, would the outcome be different? You don't know. Possibly not. And I think it reflects your decision making in literally instant time. And you look back on those instant decisions that you made, and actually, I think when you've had a successful outcome, those instant decisions, you're like, you know what, that is good, I'll make that decision again. Or if you had a good outcome, you think, actually, I still could have done that better. And it's and I think certainly, it always teaches you as well. I think it always teaches you as well that, there's so many curveballs out there. You can do everything in your power, and it just sometimes just goes belly up.
Having experience with both writing and television, is there a difference in the storytelling or how you choose what stories you do tell?
Yes, it took a lot of careful consideration and planning what stories you put into your book, because a lot of the stories are about people that are still here, still alive, even animals that are still alive. So you have to be, it's something, you have to be respectful of the situation. You can be honest, because there's a way that you have to make sure you give everything the right context. And that, I think, is one of the key things, because if something's taken out of context, then the repercussions and stuff like that. So it's always making sure that, right, have I approached this from every angle? Is everyone treated respectfully? Have I still got a point across? Hard truths and stuff like that, because whether in the first book, I had a lot of stories about dangerous dogs and pit bulls and stuff like that. And it was around about the XL bully time. And I was like, okay, I could just pretend it wasn't an XL bully. I could pretend it wasn't a pit bull cross. I could have just said it was an angry German Shepherd. I was like, no, that takes away the truth of the matter. I am going to say it's a pit bull terrier that I was dealing with. And people might say, oh, these are all, all the dogs that dealt with XL bullies. That shows them in a bad light. It's like, well, they're showing a bad light. It's the truth. Each story was an XL bully, but it doesn't mean that they're all bad. So it's a case of, at the start of the book, it was like, look, I deal with a lot of kind of emotive topics in this. If you want to learn about these topics in more detail, I suggest you look at these things here and there, because I'm going to tell you as it is, as it was, and also going to address, concerns that, may arise in the story itself, Like, I try and tell the stories where it's a good story, but it also has a bit of a, engages your thought process afterwards, like, oh, actually, yeah, that made me think about that, or that was a good little comparison, oh, yeah, that's the kind of way I try and do it.
Transitioning onto like your work-life balance, do you have any tips for avoiding burnout?
You know what? From being the burnt out one that came from literally trying to do a career change with a wife that was pregnant, trying to relocate, doing things that doing like career directions that weren't fitting me. I think there's so many facets to it, and it took me a moment of what am I doing here, of just to just literally sit and talk about it. I've got an incredibly supportive family network, and my wife's very supportive and such like that. And she knew that my at the end of the day, you've got a job to do, bringing the money for the family, and Catherine works full time. In case of at the end of the day, you got to respect each other's career paths and what you do. And she's very supportive with mine. She knew that going up going up north at that point in time was the right decision, and we were together trying to do it and trying to make it work as best we could. And when there were too many factors that couldn't work, and I realized I wasn't happy, it was a case of but I know what that feels like now, and I know what that is. Prior to then, yeah, I was giving it my all, trying everything was focused, career, and because that was all my intention at the time. When other family things came in, sometimes it takes a bit of a shock to the system to wake yourself up and think what's going on. But in order to avoid it, my advice would be to question why you're doing what you're doing. Nothing's going to be perfect, certainly. I still have really crap days when I hate it, and you're going to have them, but on balance, my dad always said to me, out of 365 days in the year, 65 might suck, but 300 are good, So I think it's kind of having, and as well, like having the days when everything dies, everything's just crap, and it's like, and then you want to think, what, sod it, go be a pilot or something like that, and I'm just tired, and it's just like, actually, do I need a break? Do I need a holiday? Is it just a bad week? What can I do? What can we do with the family? What can we do that might just help, just alleviate that pressure a little bit, because it's a very emotive job, and I think it's something which I think it's something it's something which it'll take from you as many hours as you want to give it. So I think it's something. I think if anyone's ever feeling any feelings of burnout or any feelings that they're not happy or waking up, this is just like, it's taking a moment and asking, why am I doing what I'm doing, and am I enjoying it? If that makes sense.
Definitely. I guess what sort of things then do you like to do outside of work to keep that balance maintained?
Well, I mean, currently having a 2.5-year-old, she keeps us very much occupied. So at the moment, it's work on work, and then it's toddler work. It's very much a case of I like doing so many things. Everything from just simply, I like cooking, I like going clay pigeon shooting. One of my dreams is to fly a plane at some point in time. That'd be so cool. I used to play the piano. I've not really had time to do that. I like to read. I like a bit of gaming, a bit of PlayStation. So many things that I like doing, like say stuff like that. And me and Catherine love going out for a little bit of like a weekend away to lakes. My parents look after our daughter and stuff like that. I like doing so much stuff. I feel like quite lucky that I can, depending on what's going on and what time I've got, I'll find different like ways and hobbies to just decompress. But then it's strange, we've just been on holiday for a week, and a few days you decompress, and then I've sat there, I'm thinking, I'll do a bit of my book now. And then, that case really threw me off. Let's have a quick research about this parrot result that just came into it. And it's like, Matthew, stop it. But at the same time, I'm like, that shows that I like what I do. The fact that I'm sat there, I've had a bit of time decompressing. That's interesting, But it's I'm not saying that everyone is different, but there are a lot of ways that we're trying to. But sometimes get the time to do it. The stage of life that I'm in right now is very much a case of we're in the throngs of having a toddler, which puts strain on both avenues. And like I said, having a very supportive other half, that understands the stresses of the veterinary job, and obviously, we cut each other some slack, and we appreciate, look, sometimes you need a holiday, or it is just hard. And sometimes you don't want an answer to it. You just want, someone to just have a good moment, or, and just get it off your chest. So, it's, it all depends, I suppose, really on what time is available, whether I've got time to go off clay pigeon shooting for a morning, or whether I can just, sit and have half an hour on the PlayStation or read a book. But,
All right.
all right, cup of tea, finished, I'm ready.
Okay, before we wrap up, we've just got a quick rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Never.
Okay, indoor consults or farm calls?
Farm calls.
Most underrated farm animal.
I know it's rapid fire. My brain's gone. I was thinking, do I really mean that? You know what? I have to go off the immediate one. You know what came to my head? It's like most underrated, the most underrated farm animal was an alpaca. Does it count as a farm animal? Yeah.
I would count it. I would count
I'll
it.
say breeds of cow. Right. There we go. We're going with that. We'll go with the alpaca. I'll go. Yeah.
City or countryside?
Countryside.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
First thing you do before the cameras start rolling?
Check my hair.
Good
Have I
one.
had a shave?
Paperback or audiobook?
I love an audiobook. Audiobooks are great, but I love a paperback. Oh, this is really hard. Audioback because sometimes hardback.
Most rewarding part of your job in one word, if you can.
Most rewarding. The sense of victory. The most rewarding is the sense of success. And it can be small or big. Just that bit. I don't know if it is a word for that or not.
I feel like we've gotten this piece of advice in terms of really reflecting on why you want to be in this field. But I guess any final piece of advice for aspiring vets?
Keep going. Just keep going. There's no, time limit on it. Just literally keep calm and carry on, as the old adage says. And I feel as I get older, some of the old adages kind of come to me a bit more, but definitely keep calm and carry on.
That's a good one.
That is perfect. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the podcast.
To learn more about Animal Aspirations, visit our website at animalaspirations.com.
And don't forget to follow the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. Educate,
Educate,
inspire,
inspire,
diversify.
diversify.